Hey, welcome to Filler. I'm Joe.
And I'm Steve.
And we are back today starting our trilogy.
This was your idea, man.
It was my idea. I know it was my idea. And I have a lot of thoughts on it. So the title of our trilogy, to keep the 90s theme of the band that we're talking about, is called The Blink Files, because it's about Blink-182's discography. I chose them because when I was younger, they really, really filled my cup, and I really, really appreciated growing up with them.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve didn't really have that much of an experience with them. Am I correct?
Yeah. Basically, I liked all the small things in middle to early high school because it was a power chord pop punk song. It was easy to play on the guitar. But I never really had any interest in diving into them deeper. You know, I kind of had like a strict, like what to listen to, like what kind of media I was exposed to growing up kind of thing. So a lot of their like more crass stuff, I don't think I would have been allowed to hear anyway. But I don't know. I just kind of, they never grabbed my curiosity the way other pop punk bands like Green Day or Fall Out Boy or Paramore did. It just never really clicked with me at that age when it seemed like it would have been more for me.
And I think that's why they did click with me, because I'm very grateful. My parents were really open to my sister and me listening to kind of whatever we wanted to. I definitely grew up listening to songs that had like swear words and curses and mature themes in them. But when they heard me listening to this, they were like, "This is stupid." And I said, "Yeah, but it's a lot of fun."
Yeah.
So I also used to skateboard a lot with friends in Brooklyn, and this is... They kind of started as a skate punk band, beginning in SoCal in the 1992, and it really is good music to skate to.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun learning how to ollie with like little earbuds plugged in, messing up a grind and falling and hurting, but it was just those party videos, those American Pie like movie montage music videos.
Yeah.
That was very indicative of how I grew up. I was doing stupid things as a teenager, and this was a great soundtrack with it. We listened to Green Day, too. They were more political. That was something I'd bond with my sister over.
Mm-hmm.
We'd listen to Sum 41. Fall Out Boy hit when that became a thing. 4 Years Strong. We eventually started going into easycore and that, but Blink-182 was always a hype-up song, too, especially as we got into later high school years and college years, and it became just what you'd be singing along while you're drunk at a party.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of that. I remember when Tom DeLonge left and they replaced him, or before they announced they were replacing him with Matt Skiba, my friend Sean, who I've mentioned a few times and would like to have him as a guest, his immediate reaction was, but who will do the naughty naws? and I think that's kind of colored my opinion of them. Well, not just that statement, but just that's kind of always been my idea of them. Like I always knew Hoppus was more my speed. I liked him more, and I just kind of couldn't stand Tom DeLonge. But then, like, I don't know, I'd hear other things like Mark can't play Carousel standing up, or when they said 6/8 is our most musically ambitious song ever because it's in 6/8, I was like, okay, maybe they're not the greatest musicians, which this leads to a disclaimer that I had to write out. And if you'll humor me,
Sure.
I would like to say that, you know, we're in a band called the LVP. We just played a show together last night. I'm the primary singer-songwriter of the band. Now, because I am a singer-songwriter myself and have never had even an atom of the success this band has achieved over a career that started literally before I was born, I need to make it absolutely clear that nothing I say is coming from a place of thinking I can do better. However, if you are a diehard Blink-182 fan who wants to critique my music as hard as I am about to do to them, then please feel free to stream our band, the LVP, on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your music. I welcome the critique and seeing if I could put my money where my mouth is. Because again, I don't think I can do better, it's stupid to even compare musicians in that way. It's all about who you like and whether or not you think things hold up to scrutiny, which leads to my other quick disclaimer. At the end of the day, I believe that critique should be as independent of opinion as possible. It is good and healthy to recognize the flaws or missed opportunities in art, but it is up to each person, based on their taste and emotional connection, to determine how to weigh the pros and cons. I can forgive the exact same flaws this band has in others I like more because something about them speaks to me, and basing an entire opinion or feeling for art on an arbitrary list of critiques is reductive to the human element of creation. Appreciation for craft and liking the product are two different things.
I think those are great disclaimers, and I think that can stand for anything that we'll talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Especially the differentiation between craft and just enjoying something. We're going to talk a lot about the craft. We're going to talk a lot about liking or disliking and whether those are even valid or arbitrary in and of themselves. And frankly, just liking or disliking something based on a gut feeling, I think, is valid in and of itself. But we're also here to talk about the craft and the effort and musicianship and creatorship that goes into it as well. So I appreciate that. I'm with you on it. And as a diehard Blink-182 fan, I have critiqued the LVP's music being in the band.
That's
so
true, yeah.
I can say that Steve is open to feedback when talking about things.
You've made songs better by saying, like, why don't we try this? Why don't we throw something in here? And that's the kind of stuff that I probably wouldn't have thought of on my own, and that's what makes a band work. And honestly, I think is part of what makes Blink work in the interplay between Tom and Mark, and then getting Travis to really complete it after Scott wasn't quite hitting it.
Yeah.
But we'll get into all that.
Yeah. As for my disclaimer, I can play Carousel standing up. That is one of my go-to riffs that I do every time I pick up a bass. I play Carousel just to make sure I'm warmed up. And if I'm not warmed up, I'll feel it while playing Carousel. And my other disclaimer is I think I can say after listening to 8 hours on the dot of Blink-182 that I can write a better bass line than Mark can, but I'm not sure I can write a better hook. And we'll get into that. But but on bass, I think I'm a stronger bassist than Mark is.
Easily.
Yeah. But I don't, or maybe I shouldn't disparage myself so much. I think I can get into his ballpark at some point. But we'll talk about more about that as we go into album by album. Having seen them live, I can say they put on a good show. It's a fun show. I don't know, based on the few times I've seen them, either 2 or 3 times, I don't think I would call them amazing musicians in any right. They can play their instruments, especially Travis Barker. Him, I would call a very strong, very great drummer.
The mixed feelings I have about Travis Barker.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But they do speed up when they play. You can hear the tempo be much faster than the record. And that's not to say that you don't have to, you have to play exactly what you hear on the album.
No, especially in punk music, I can definitely forgive that.
And that's totally fine, but I would argue they're not really a punk band, and they haven't been for
Not
many
anymore.
years.
Yeah.
And when I've seen them, I don't think they were a punk band, but they play like they're one. And I'm not sure those two things add up when they make the music that they make.
I see.
And you have the listener expectations that you do from the albums that they create.
What album cycles did you see them on?
I saw them probably either right after or right before Neighborhoods. It was when Tom first rejoined. And then I saw them a few years after that was it with Skiba? It might have been like another Tom show prior to Skiba, because I don't remember seeing him. But both times I've seen them, they sped up. And I noticed it, especially as I became a better musician in my own right. And it was distracting because I tried to sing along, and it's hard to sing along to some songs when you go that fast, you know? But we'll get into that further. Yeah. So the way we're going to do this, like I said, it is a trilogy. We're going to be breaking down their discography into 3 separate eras. So our first episode will be about Cheshire Cat through Enema of the State. The second episode we'll do Take Off Your Pants and Jacket all through Dogs Eating Dogs. And then the third episode will be California through One More Time. For listeners' sake, just so that they know as we're going through these, where we listen to the deluxe editions of albums.
Yeah.
And if we missed any songs, feel free to call us out, send them our way. I will try to make the time to listen to more Blink-182 in 2025.
Sure, fucking why not?
You don't have to. It's okay.
Well, at this point, in for a penny, in for a pound, you know?
That's fair. So, our first album is Cheshire Cat from 1995.
Which, fun fact, I just saw this on Enemy. We're recording this on February 17th. Cheshire Cat turned 30 years old today.
Oh, that's cool.
That's wild that we're recording
That's
this
really
now.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really wholesome. That makes me feel way more into this right now after all the Blink listening. How did you feel about Cheshire Cat being the new person to Blink-182?
Okay. So I am going to try and follow my notes here to reiterate what I was feeling as I listened. A lot of the opinions kind of changed retroactively upon listening to further ones.
Okay.
So like there are certain albums that I didn't like as much upon initial listen as hearing something, or as I did after hearing something later that was worse that made me appreciate it more.
I see.
So I'm going to try and go based on my initial reaction as I go through each album. And my general thoughts on Cheshire Cat are that I could see how this was a lot of fun to see in a basement in the early to mid 90s. It's interesting to hear their lyrics be more juvenile in like an amateur way as opposed to this self-aware, edgy kind of humor thing. They're literally just kids trying, and that's fun, you know? I love how scrappy the album sounds, except the vocals, because they sit completely differently, and you never for once think that this sounds like a band playing.
Yeah.
Because it just, I don't know how to explain it in production terms, but the vocals just do not sit in the same place as the rest
It
of
sounds
the instruments.
like they recorded them after the fact. And while they probably didn't do it live together in the room anyway, so that'd be like a normal thing to do, record bit by bit.
Right, that's what we do.
It just doesn't sound like they're all in the same room. It sounds like the music is in the room. And then it sounded like the music might be playing maybe on its own track. Like there might be like a weird compression thing.
Yeah.
Where they had to use a 4-track recorder or something, and then they laid the vocals on top of it. I know what you mean. And in the production, it ends up just not working.
Yeah,
right?
it's a little distracting, and yeah, it's an indie record, whatever. Like, it's how hard are you going to be on it? But I don't know. It just kind of took me out of it, and I guess my biggest thing, and this is going to be a recurring thing with this band especially, I know punk records have like 16, 20, 25 songs, and sometimes they're like a minute each. I get the tradition of that. I do not get, with this album and many others later, why there's like 16 songs on it when so many of them don't feel like they need to be there. You know, like they're actual filler songs. It's like we don't need every single one of these, and if you took a couple of the weakest ones off, or the ones that don't add anything new, and then instead focus that time on tweaking the better songs, you'd have a solid record all the way through at 12 tracks max versus like 16 of like, okay, I've heard this, you know, like this is where that started.
It makes me wonder about quality versus quantity when they were recording, and who put those expectations on the album. Because I remember starting bands when I was younger, maybe even up until when I joined the LVP, any band that I was in, if we had a song, we recorded it. And so it just feels like they had all these songs, so they were like, let's go record them. And there was less of a filter mindset or editor mindset, and they just were like, this is fun, it's scrappy, they like it because we played in the basement, let's put it on tape. And then you and I listened to it and we're like, this doesn't need to be here.
Yeah. And it is a different era too, because you're printing these on CDs back then, and you had to pay money for them. So like you're trying to give people their money's worth. So I get that part of it. But I don't know. I would never know what I was missing if I didn't hear, I don't know. I can't even remember which of these songs. I started to check out at Strings, which is like track 5.
Okay.
And it took until track 9 with Cacophony where it started to change things up a little bit. Feels like we could have cut some songs before this to get to that variety sooner.
I agree. There was Fentuzler, Touchdown Boy.
I don't get why Fentuzler, because we both reread or re-listened to the Dan Ozzie Sellout chapter about Blink-182, and he listed Fentuzler as one of the crowd favorites, and I'm like, really? Yeah.
I think it's a song that works live, but it doesn't need to be recorded.
Yeah.
Or rather, we don't need to listen to it. I think maybe on a shorter record, Fentuzler would have hit, on an EP, double single, anything like that. But just as part of an album, when you see 16 tracks and you see Fentuzler, I guess.
I will say, though, songs like Just About Done, that's the kind of stupidity I was expecting. And at the second to last song was actually starting to hope for. And, the last song, Depends, is a song about diapers.
Yep.
Amazing. But here's a funny thing about that song. It doesn't even feel worth it to critique the quote-unquote offensiveness of a bunch of snot-nosed 20-year-olds in 1995.
Yeah.
But the end of Depends is something.
Yeah.
With that,
Mark Hoppus's black impression, basically. I don't even know what else to say. He puts on a bad accent.
Yeah.
And the skit goes on for way too long.
Way too long.
But I don't, that's not, like you're saying, it's not a cancelable offense. This is like a product of the times kind of thing. We never hear Mark Hoppus do this again.
Yeah. So
I think they get it. I think they know what works in terms of where they can be offensive and what works and what's inappropriate. There's a line in that song that my friends and I used to scream at each other when we just did something stupid and it became an inside joke. And the line is, "Who taught you to throw the dick down the stairs?" And it means nothing. If you listen to Depends, you hear someone throw something and it flops down the stairs, but it's more like a body bag than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's just so stupid and so absurd humor that works for Blink. But when they do more racially charged or more homophobic stuff, that's where it doesn't age so well.
Yeah.
Which I think is just the par for the course with humor in general. You can do stupid, absurd stuff and it holds up. But the racial stuff, the homophobic stuff, I don't think so.
But the "who threw the dick down the stairs" thing, that made me die, because I'm like, this is what I was hoping for. You know, this kind of because they have great comedic timing. And I think what it is about me missing the boat on them is I would have loved this if it hit me as a teenager, but I just didn't bother to listen to it.
Yeah.
And then I grew up a little bit and got into college and was and then young adulthood, I was kind of oh, I'm taking myself too seriously to listen to Blink-182. Now I'm almost 30 and somehow it's circled back where I can retroactively appreciate the stupidity.
Right.
I don't know how to explain it.
I think it's also, we're past the point of guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Where you can say, this isn't a guilty pleasure. I don't know about you. I don't consider myself a person who has a guilty pleasure. There's things I like and there's things I don't like. And if I'm being judged by it, I'm not the jerk. You are.
That's
for
a
judging
great
me,
point. Yeah.
You know? So I go back and listen to this because I did like this as a teenager because, again, it was good to skate to. It was fun to do those things. But as a 32-year-old guy, I didn't need to do this. My life was not enriched by anything. It was mostly just memories and nostalgia. I think Carousel holds up. I think Eminem's holds up. We see Mark is way more melodic right away.
Oh, my God.
On the vocals than Tom, at least right now. You can hear that Mark gets pop music this young, which is very, very cool to see him grow as the discography progresses. But there's those songs. Fentoozler we talked about. Touchdown Boy's another one. Strings, you said you checked out there. I thought it was cool because it's a bass-led song, but that's my bias.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need that chorus of strings screeching. It wasn't necessary. I really liked Wasting Time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one still holds up for me. That's where they have the riff and the 4 chords, and it's there.
You're gonna have to be more specific.
No, I'm gonna stick with that because it's Damn It Before Damn It. It's First Date Before First Date. It's What's My Age Again before that. You can see them writing riffs.
It's the prototype,
right? But even the prototype is okay. Yep, it makes sense. It's good. I still think, and I agree with you, that they should have cut some stuff at being 16 songs. However, it's only 42 minutes. That's not long for an album.
Yeah.
Like, I think if this was a 50-minute album at 16 songs that are like this, yeah.
Oh, like later?
Yes, like later, which we'll talk about. But I don't think a 42-minute album at 16 songs is bad. I just think, like you said, if they took the time to focus on making their stronger songs better, it would have been a stronger, tight 30-minute album.
Yeah, and you wouldn't feel like you didn't get your money's worth because everything's good.
Right.
You know.
Whereas right now, you're kind of underwhelmed because it doesn't sit through the entire record.
Yeah.
And I think, this is just me projecting, I think they were like, hey, we got 16 songs. They're going to love it. Mm-hmm. And they weren't like, we have 12 great tracks. They're going to love it.
Yeah.
They were just thinking more is better. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, my final thought on the album was that it could have been an an EP. It could have been an EP, sorry.
Yeah, no, oh my God. I had the same thought, actually. I was just like, why did they do EPs? Because I didn't see any besides Dogs Eating Dogs, and that was so much later.
I think they did one other EP, and we didn't even include it. I didn't even think anything of it. I didn't listen.
Oh, is it Buddha?
To it. No, that's an album. There's
like
another
demo,
EP
right?
that they have, and I think we listened to the songs. We might have even listened to. And again, listeners, correct us if we're wrong.
Yep.
That's totally fine. But we've listened to plenty of Blink-182, so
yeah.
Shall we move on to Dude Ranch?
Yeah. First thing that stood out is it's got a lot of similarity in like production quality to Cheshire Cat, but the vocals sit better, and that makes it immediately better. And this was where I first started to notice like Mark and Tom actually trading off vocals like within the same song. Mm-hmm. Like on the opening track, Pathetic, like it works really well. And you can tell based on their voices in the first album and this one that like they know which person should sing which song.
Yeah.
Like because their voices are so different but work well together that like they know which voice fits a song better. Mark is clearly a better singer, at least this early, but I don't know. You can feel a little growth. It feels like they're playing more like a band, and it's got Damn It on it. Like it's, you know, I kind of liked it on Guitar Hero, but it never stuck with me. But then the weirdest thing happened that when I was listening to Cheshire Cat, I just kept getting Damn It stuck in my head before I'd even listened to Dude Ranch, because I was just like, okay, that's the power of a great classic song. It's going to just stick with you and pop its way up in your brain at times you don't even think it's going to, you know? Like, I don't know. I was waiting for all of Cheshire Cat for a song with that good of a hook, you know, that riff, like as simple as it is, it sounds big and it accomplishes a purpose that none of the shredding on Cheshire Cat really does. You know, it's like, it's impressive. You know, I don't think I could do some of the stuff that Tom does on guitar, but like, it's got to have a point, you know?
Yes.
Like, it's part of why I love Vince's guitar playing in our band, that like he has good riffs, good like hooks. And Damn It is the first time that I feel like it really captures that. I don't think much of the rest of the album lives up to it, but when you've got one song that good, I think it kind of lifts the whole album up.
Damn It is definitely the high point, but I think Pathetic is underserved.
Yeah.
For being a really strong song.
Good opener.
Yeah. I wrote in our notes, that's Blink arriving. That's them showing up and saying, this is what we're about. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
This is where we're going and what we're capable of. And Damn It just perfects that immediately. And I don't think they get better than Damn It on the album, too. I agree with you. It still rips. It's still like a great 4-chord song. It still holds up today when you listen to it. Not many other songs on this album hold up as well as Damn It. Some of these titles of songs, even, for me, a song I really loved when I was growing up, and I still even appreciate listening to now for its songwriting and its themes, and its guitar work, is called Dick Lips.
Oh, yeah.
And that's such a bad song title. It's disgusting. But I remember that song so vividly because of its title, and it just... I think it's a fine song, and the guitar in it is interesting for it. But it is no Damn It. There is a lot of stuff on here. I think... I would say between Cheshire Cat and Dude Ranch... I think Dude Ranch has more filler for me.
I can see that.
And I think it's just because all of these songs are the same exact thing. It's Voyeur. So Voyeur is the prime example of the problem I have. It's a solid, fun track, but it doesn't do anything that's better than Pathetic or Damn It. And Pathetic and Damn It are the best songs on the album for me.
Yeah.
So then we get Boring, Waggy, Enthused. It's all the same thing as Voyeur.
Yeah.
They're fine. We don't need them. So why are they on a 45-minute long pop punk album at the end of the 90s? It's just not... Someone should have told them to cut them.
Yes.
And make a stronger album that's shorter and just own it. I did see a little bit of setup for Enema on here.
Yeah.
Which I think is fun. So, for example, Untitled, the song Untitled, not the album Untitled, we'll talk about later. Untitled is a lot softer. There's a lot more palm muting, and it's a lot more emotion in the song. Same as Emo, which...
Oh, yeah, Emo.
Emo sets up a lot of Enema, Take Off Your Pants, and Untitled, the album. But it's just all this groundwork that I want them to do more with that they do. So hearing it now and then going into Enema next, I'm like, all right, let's get to Enema. Yeah, I know what's coming, and I'd rather just listen to that. You were talking about how they come together better as a band on this one, and I think that's one of their major strengths in general.
Yeah.
And I noticed that on Degenerate, which sitting here now, I couldn't even tell you what the melody is because I have so many other thoughts and melodies in my head. But I think Degenerate shows that Mark is a stronger songwriter than Tom.
Yeah.
But their friendship of getting out of the other's way is what makes it work. Because there, Tom just takes the backseat, lets Mark shine, but supports him in the way that only Tom can.
I'm glad you brought up Degenerate because I had this note about it. When Tom started singing on it, my immediate first thought was modern baseball?
That's funny.
Because I don't know why it's just hitting me now, but maybe it was because of the twinklier guitars on the song that I was like, I don't know. Like, Blink's influence is obvious, but I never put that together, you know, like Jake and Brandon. That's their names, right? Jake and Brandon from Modern Baseball. Brendan. That's very much a Mark and Tom kind of relationship, you know,
Yeah.
like twin leads, both songwriters, different voices, work well together, take turns, you know. I know they haven't been together in a long time, but I could see the through line there.
Yeah, that's fair. I never thought of that. I didn't realize that. How did you feel about I'm Sorry? Because that's our first 5-minute. It's wild that I have to say first 5-minute Blink-182 song, but it's our first 5-minute one.
I'm glad you asked that, Joe. Here are my reactions that I wrote down as I got to the song. Upon seeing that it's 5 minutes and 30 seconds long, oh God. Hearing Tom sing, oh God. Hearing the fade out at 3:50, oh God. Hearing a vocal sketch of Mark making his dog drink his piss. Okay. Those are my thoughts. I'm sorry.
Are you saying I'm sorry the song title, or I'm sorry for your thoughts?
Yes.
I was just proud of myself to have gotten to the end of this album and listened to a song called I'm Sorry for 5 minutes. My major note about this before we move on to Enema was that I'm both disgusted by and envious of Mark Hoppus.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it. He's a big inspiration for me as a songwriter, as a musician, as a bandmate. And at the same time, dude is disgusting in some of his jokes. He's just nasty. This skit did not hit as well as it used to. And I'm going to say it never really hit.
Yeah.
But now having dogs, I was grossed out.
Yeah.
That's gross, man.
See, I remember, I don't know where this song appears. I think I asked Vince and he said it was on Mark, Tom, and Travis show.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck a Dog. I remember someone showing it to me as a teenager, and I think that's part of why I had this impression of Blink, that I was just like, oh, they're just stupid.
They're just stupid, yeah. I think they sing it live. I never heard it recorded, but it is on the Mark, Tom, and Travis show.
That must be what they showed me then, because I'm like, I kept waiting for it to show up, and I was just like, where's the song where he says, I want to fuck a dog in the ass?
Yep.
And it doesn't happen, but at least we got the dog piss
but
drinking.
The spirit is there.
Yeah.
Enema of the State, 1999.
Yes, the first album with a budget. And Travis. Both are apparent.
So we should talk about that before getting into this.
Yeah.
So Blink's original drummer was Scott Raynor. And I like his drumming. I think it's fine. It's serviceable for all of Cheshire, for all of Dude Ranch. I think it's just plain punk drumming. I don't think there's anything crazy about it. Yeah. He definitely carries a lot of the energy. Did anything stand out for you with Scott's drumming?
No. I was kind of surprised that Damn It didn't have Travis Barker on it. I never knew that. But, you know, it's appropriately sloppy drumming for a punk band. It's not... He's kind of the Chad Channing of Blink-182, you know, like on Bleach, Nirvana's first album, they had Chad Channing, the drummer, and they went through like 4 or 5 different drummers before they got to Dave Grohl. And once they got Dave, that was the missing piece. Right. Travis Barker is very much the Dave Grohl of Blink-182.
That's a good connection. So Tom, Mark, and Scott are on tour, and they're touring extensively after Dude Ranch. And what ends up happening is that they go home for a little bit. They're back to their girlfriends or not. And Scott Raynor has some, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's alcohol issues.
That's right.
But he's definitely got addiction stuff going on. And so he became unreliable and was frustrating Mark and Tom. And so they talked to him, and eventually tensions got really, really high and hot. And what happened was they both wanted him to leave the band, and he kind of made the decision on his own that it just was not for him. That he didn't feel like he fit in well with them. And that's when they asked Travis to jump in to fill in for Scott, and he ended up becoming the third member of the band.
And I didn't know he was the drummer for the Aquabats?
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
Wow.
Travis is an undersung hero in Blink-182, maybe less so in larger pop culture, but
So are you saying we should give the drummer some?
yeah.
That is the one side project I didn't listen to.
I didn't listen
I
to that
couldn't
either.
do it.
I don't. No, there's no need to.
There's no need.
No. But I do have a theory and an idea about Travis with regards to Blink-182 that I'll talk about more later when it becomes relevant for the albums at hand. But like you said, he's the Dave Grohl. He comes in, they lock in, and then they get their Nevermind. Would you call Enema their Nevermind? Their
Enema
breakout?
is the first album I liked from Blink. Like, I mean, I liked all the small things as a kid, so like it was the one I was familiar with, I guess. But I don't know, like the other hits on it never really stuck with me or anything, but I never dove that deep into it. Doing it now, this was the first one where I was just like, okay, yeah.
What worked for you on it?
Well, it's 12 songs, 35 minutes. That felt refreshing.
Check.
Yep. Look, you could say what you want about the production being too glossy for punk or whatever, but the songwriting is tighter. And that, to me, it can sound like shit if it's a well-written song. Look at King Gizzard. Like, half their records sound terrible, but, like, the songs are good. And it just feels like there's a lot of intention on this record. Like, a lot of the songs flow into each other nonstop and have dynamics to distinguish them from each other and changing tempo, so it's not all the same shit for 16 songs in a row, you know?
Yep.
I want to ask you about the story behind Adam's song, because that stood out as like a deeper song that was something new for them. I mean, it took until track 10 out of 12 for me, Mutt, for me to start to check out.
Mutt sucks.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Like, okay, the party song is kind of gross with the weird, like, misogynist stuff, whatever. But, like,
There's a lot of misogynistic stuff on this.
yeah.
Dumpweed. I need a girl that I can train.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
That's on the first
Isn't that
track.
the first song? Yeah.
And Dumpweed is a great song, and it's one that they still play, and people love singing along to,
Yeah.
myself included. But that line, I don't
Yeah.
know how that hit in 1999, let alone today. That doesn't hold up whatsoever.
I mean, that's a lot worse than, like, Paramore semi-retiring Misery Business because of Once a Whore, You're Nothing More.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, you know what, fuck it. Like, this is one of our best songs ever.
Yeah.
And we've grown. You've seen that we've grown. There's no need to stop it, you know, and deny fans a song they want to hear.
Sure.
So, yeah, Dumpweed's worse, and the party song is worse. But I don't know. I mean, how mad are you really going to get about the guys running through the streets naked and playing What's My Age Again, like, naked in the music video and like doing all that stuff? How mad can you really get when it's clear that it's just stupid?
Oh, that's the thing. I'm not mad because I know that they're stupid.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm able to hear that and I go, this is stupid. They're stupid. It's all stupid. I like that guitar riff, though.
Yeah. And when they do a music video for All the Small Things where they're like parodying the boy band that they're kind of becoming,
Yeah.
you know that they're smart about being stupid.
Yes.
And that's where it's starting to click for me.
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, they are self-aware. They know that they can play up the crudeness and it works. But then they hit you with an Adam song and you're like, oh, do they have like thoughts? You know, like real thoughts. So yeah, what's the story behind that song?
So Adam's song, I actually had to watch a video about this because I was misinformed about it as well. There was a sketch. I think it was Mr. Show.
Oh, Bob Odenkirk, David Cross.
And on Mr. Show, there was a scene where a kid goes to commit suicide. Or it's after the fact that he committed suicide. I don't know. I didn't watch the sketch of it. But his name is Adam. Mm-hmm. And it's in the context of a fake band's music video. And it's all about the band trying to uplift Adam to not kill himself. But actually, again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong and misremembering. It's ultimately the band encouraging Adam to kill himself.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is just not funny.
Yeah.
And at the 90s edgy kind of humor time, I'm sure people thought it was funny. So Blink, being aware of this, write a song called Adam's Song, kind of riffing on the suicidal ideation of the track, but they make it serious. And so this is where we get the weird mixture of Blink kind of being in on their own joke, but also not really hitting the mark.
Yeah.
You know? And the song itself is just about Mark struggling with his upbringing and his divorced parents and whatnot. And maybe at some point he had suicidal ideation, but it is not based on any real person.
Wow.
It's not based on,
I thought it was for like a friend or something. Oh,
they have
wow.
a friend named Adam who that comes up later in a different album, but it was mostly inspired by Mark's upbringing. And the title track comes from this Mr. Show.
Wow.
That's it. It's a good song.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not an Adam song truther like a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I think it's a fine song. I think they can write serious things well with intention. And when they do, it really, really works for me. It's fine. And that might just be my age showing because it doesn't hit for me. It didn't really hit then. Things on Take Off Your Pants and Jacket hit better for me that are in this vein. But it's fine. I didn't know that they had Adam's song sequenced into All the Small Things.
Yeah, what a 1-2 punch there.
Which is a really weird choice. But it works really, really well sonically.
Yes.
Thematically, it doesn't.
Thematically, not at all. Musically, yes.
And I just don't get their choices. And I think that's my big thing that I'm starting to discover at this point in my re-listen of Blink is that I understand what they're doing here and there, and I get, oh, that's masterful. Like you guys know what you're doing. And then they do Adam's song into All the Small Things, and it sounds great, but you got to question why. Why didn't they get an interlude there?
Yeah.
Because maybe that would have been the start of introducing those interludes that become so famous in this band later on. And like, frankly, kind of annoying. But that would have been a good gear shift moment.
Yeah.
And they just go, actually, no, we're at a party now. Nah. It didn't hit for me the same.
Yeah.
There were other things on Enema that I really liked. Like Aliens Exist, going away to college. That still holds up for me, that sequencing.
Aliens Exist being a Tom song is the least surprising thing ever.
I think the most surprising thing is that Tom is right.
I know.
And he
that
really
was wild.
He really gets his flowers later on, where I had all of my friends who were like, yeah, Tom believes in aliens. He's crazy. And I was like, well, there's a logical probability that like aliens do exist. Like I was the Tom truther.
I mean, it's too big of a universe to know aliens don't exist. But,
right.
It whenever you talk about it, you sound crazy because if you're talking about UFOs and little green men and stuff, it gets you sound nuts. You know?
Yeah, no, and I get that and I understand that, but I was just very happy for Tom when the U.S. government proved him right. I was like, good for you, Tom. Aliens do exist. I put that song on.
I was happy for him, but then I was like, oh no, then this means that Angels and Airwaves has a reason to exist. I don't want that to happen. We'll get to that.
We'll talk about that. So you were saying how you liked the length of this album.
Yeah.
Which I agree with you. But after Dysentery Gary, great song title.
Is it Dysentery Gary?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. This is how tired I am. After Dysentery Gary, I started losing attention.
Oh, yeah.
And so I actually thought that this album felt long again.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it was because of the casual misogyny too. Maybe it's because I'm too old. It could be like a multitude of things. But
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted a Joyce Manor length record from them at this point. Give me something capped at 25 and it'll be great, which I guess I'm asking for too much after asking them to cut down on the last two albums. But there was just too much of the same stuff. I think I could take I Need a Girl That I Can Train if we don't have to also sit through Mutt too.
Yeah.
Like, we just didn't need that.
I think this is a 1999 record. You're still selling CDs. This seems like the right length to still give someone their money's worth to buy a CD. So I can see why it's not as short as it probably could be. They're also just like not, you've said this before, like they're really not an album band. They kind of live and die by the singles. And there's so many good singles on this album that like you can kind of forgive the filler. At least I could. But I've also noticed that my opinion of something when I'm listening to it for the first time is often colored by what I'm doing while I listen. I don't usually just sit and focus on listening to music. So a lot of times I'm listening to something while walking my dog or going to the gym. And this was a great gym record. Like I listened to this.
I could see that.
I think I listened to this and Take Off Your Pants and Jacket in one gym trip. And I might have started Enema before I got to the gym because I wasn't there quite that long. But anyway, I mean, for one thing, listening to those two records together kind of shifts how you look at both of them, I think.
Yeah.
But they also came out so close to each other. So, like, that's kind of natural. But I don't know. I felt pumped by the music in this. And I felt like it wasn't just loud, fast, punky music like the first two records. This one had the hooks that also get you pumped. And so, I've never been a skateboarder. I don't really know how, but I was kind of connecting on it that way of like, this is good for activity.
Yeah.
You know?
I could see that. It's a good pop punk record and it's a good pop record. It is not a punk record.
No.
And I think this is where they actively make that decision where they move away from punk. And yet they continue to call themselves a punk band as they grow older and older. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, real emo is emotional hardcore. Like, I'm not going to get into that. You know, that's not where I'm coming at with that. It's more so a thing of, if you are saying your one thing, people have certain expectations. And then when you don't meet those built-in expectations of that genre, and you really don't subvert them effectively, it's a miss.
Yeah, I get that. I think, where were they saying they're punk?
It mostly happens on California 9.
Oh,
like
my God.
That's where I'm talking about.
Okay, I was saving that thought because Jesus Christ. Okay,
we can talk more about it, but it happens when they're older, and that's where it bugs me, because I think right now, even though they are not musically a punk band, they are morally a punk band, especially in their music videos. Like you said, the nakedness of everything that they do, it's hysterical. That's where they're really bucking expectations, but it works because they're a huge pop star band at this moment.
This is where they, I'm cool with the selling out and the shinier sounding music and everything getting tighter and catchier. Like, I'm cool with that because it works. Like, they do it well. It's their crassness and juvenile nature that is what allowed them to branch off from Green Day. And this is where it's all still working, you know? I think Green Day found their second wind by going more political and releasing an American Idiot. I don't think Blink ever had that moment. So to me, this is kind of the peak because this is where it still matters. You know, this is where they're like, they've really found their footing. And we'll see later that a lot of the records where they try to have the longevity of Green Day, it doesn't work. And Green Day has a lot of shit albums in their later career too. But like when you put out something as good in a raw way as Dookie and then something as good in a political pointed way as American Idiot, you can release as much shit as you want. You know, I don't think Blink has that same depth and longevity.
I agree with you on depth. I disagree with you on longevity.
Okay.
And I think that's where we should leave it for Enema.
Oh, to be continued?
Yes, because we've now come to the end of that first part of their 90s records and the stuff with Scott and then Travis coming in, them kind of transitioning from being the scrappy upstarts to start being the machine in the music industry, and how they build it and take it from there. Do you have any thoughts about
Sorry, I was look, I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail the conversation. I was drinking a Spindrift sparkling water and it was just irresistibly delicious, and now it's making me burp in the middle of an important conversation, and I'm sorry on behalf of Spindrift for taking over my life like this.
Did you hear that, Spindrift?
Yeah. Yeah, if you want me to stop calling you out for your heinous acts, sponsor us.
Thank you for listening to Into the Rabbit's Hole, Part 1. Part 1 of the Blink Files. We will be back next week with Part 2 called Sincerity is Scary. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Filler. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review this episode to help others find it. For more recommendations and exploration of media we love, go to afterschoolspecial.xyz and follow Filler on Blue Sky. See you next time.